All right, so we're gonna do slope from a graph. Okay, so from a graph, we should be able to tell everything. We should be able to tell if it's a positive, negative slope, and if it's a positive or negative y-intercept. Okay, so here I drew this graph on this wonderfully damaged paper. It's fine. And just by looking at it, we can see that it's going from, remember, when you read a graph, you have to read it just like a book, from left to right. Okay, so if we look at it from left to right, we can tell already that this graph is going up. Okay, so I already know that my m is going to be a positive number. So I'm just going to put m equals plus. And again, you want your slope to be a fraction, so I'm going to put a fraction bar right there. Okay, so I'm not going to put anything else. All right, our B or our y-intercept or our door, remember we call it the door because it goes through the wall, okay? Remember, just like the door in your room, it's hanging on the wall, which is vertical, just like this right here, okay? And this line is passing right through it, just like when you open a door, you pass through it, okay? So our door, just by looking at it again, I can tell that it's up here, which is a positive number. So I always like to say upstairs, where this x-axis would be the floor, and it's upstairs. Okay, so this would be in door number, it's in between two doors actually, so it's going to be a decimal. So I don't know exactly where it is, but I do know that it's in between one and no, number two and three. Okay, so I know it's going to be in between those two. I know it's not downstairs, so it's not going to be a negative number. I just know it's going to be a positive number. So again, I'm going to go ahead and put a positive sign right there. Okay. All right. On that video on Edpuzzle that you guys were supposed to do, it told you when you have a graph like this with no line or no points to pick 2 points. Okay. And it told you to pick two pretty points. Okay. And what they mean by pretty points is where this line is actually resting on the lines on the graph. Okay. These little squares where this line is actually touching it. Okay, so you could pick two random points. So I'm going to find 2 points where it's actually touching where these lines intersect. So I'm going to pick this point here and this point here. Okay, so both of those are pretty points because they are visible. Okay, they are both on the intersections of the lines on the paper. Okay, so I need to find out what those coordinates are so I can find slope, because we all know the formula for slope already, hopefully, which we've repeated over and over and over and over. And okay. All right, so I'm going to erase this a little bit down here. So I'm going to put the formula for slope. Remember, the formula for slope is m equals, and let's color code this. That'll make it easier. So y2, I'll put that in red, minus y1, and I'll put that in green, over x2 minus x1 in green. Okay? So I know that that's the formula, okay? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, because we've done this formula many, 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 many times. Okay? But the video shows you an easier way of doing this, okay? And it shows you just by making steps. So remember, we got to get from one point to the other one. We're going to go from the one on the left, the most left point, and we're going to travel to the most right point, okay? And that's on every graph, not just this one. So what we're going to do, again, we already know our slope is positive, and we got to remember that our top number, or our numerator, is our rise, and our bottom number, or our denominator, is our run. And our rise is our vertical change. And again, if we go positive, we go up. If we are negative, we go down. And our denominator, or our bottom number, is our run. If we go to the left, it's a negative. If we go to the right, it's a positive. Okay, that's one thing you have to remember. Okay, so now we're going to do that. We're going to go from one point to the other point. Okay, so first we're going to find our rise. So of course, this one we're going to go up, because this one is lower than that one. So we're going to go up. So we're going to go 1, 2, and 3. So that's a positive 3, and it's in the upward direction. Okay, so that is my rise. I already know what my rise is, so that's going to go on top, and I'm going to put it in red right there. Okay, so again, all we did was went from one point, and we will have to meet up with that point right there. I can't drive at a diagonal, so I have to go on the lines. So I went up 3 and over. We have to count that now. Okay, so let's count this. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that's a positive 6 because I'm going to the right. Okay, so that's going to go down there on the denominator. So now I know my slope is 3 over 6, or 3 up and 6 to the right. Okay? Now, of course, I can simplify that fraction, so we are going to simplify it. And I can simplify it by putting 3. Okay? How many 3's are in 3? Well, there's 1. And how many 3's are in 6? Well, there's 2. Okay, so now I know my slope is half. Okay? So now let's do it this way. So this way requires 2 points, 2 coordinates. I have 2 points, but I don't know their coordinates, so we have to find the coordinates. Okay, so for this point, to find a coordinate, remember, always start right here at your origin. So we're going to start at our origin, and we're going to go left and right first, because the x goes first. X is your horizontal change. So from here, I need to go 1, 2, 3 to the left, so that gives me a negative 3. And then from here, I need to go up 1. So that's your vertical change, and that's your y. So that's negative 3 and 1. That's the coordinates for this point right there. On our second point, let's go ahead and set up the brackets. We're going to again start at the origin, and then we're going to go our horizontal change. So for this one, we're going to go 1, 2, 3 to the right. So that's a positive 3. So I'm going to put that there. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. Vertical change, and we're going 4 up, so it's a positive 4. Okay, so now we know our coordinates. Our coordinates are negative 3 and 1, and 3 and 4. Okay, so those are coordinates for our 2 points. Let's see if it'll clear up. There it goes. All right, so now I'm going to use them here, but before I use them here, using the slope formula, I need to name them. Okay, so I'm going to name them first. So right here, my first point over here, I'm going to call it x1 and y1. Okay, and I'm doing it in green just so it corresponds with my formula right there that's already been color coded. And over here, this is my second point, so I'm going to call this x2 and y2. Okay, so now they have names. Now I can put them where they go. So now let's do that. So my first number, I know it's going to be a red one, so it's got to be one of those two, and it's going to be the y2, so that's a 4. So 4 goes right there. My next number is going to be green, so it's got to be one of those, and it's a y1, so it's a 1. Right there. And that should have been green. Let's make it green. Christmas colors, kids, Christmas colors. All right, and then on the bottom we have x2, which is a 3 up there. And my x1 is a negative 3, and that goes in green right there. Okay? So now I have it all set up, and I know it's all set up right because it's color-coded exactly the way I color-coded the formula right there. I put red first, minus green, and the bottom goes red minus green, so I know that that's correct. Okay? All right, so I always tell you guys every single time we subtract to do a thing. I always tell you to do the 2-stick rule. Okay? And the 2-stick rule is only when you're subtraction, and it only happens in the middle, never in the front, never in the back, only in the middle. So what that entails is 1 stick there and 1 stick there. Okay, so there's your 2-stick rule in orange. And down here, since I have minus minus, I'm just going to put 1 stick here and 1 stick there. So now it's plus plus. And again, all this does is clarify it. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the answer. It just clarifies it. Okay, so on the top, I'm going to go ahead and do the minion thing. Remember, positive numbers are the yellow ones and negative numbers are the purple ones. So we have more yellow, and they're going to fight. So they're going to fight, and the yellows are going to win by 3. Okay, so our numerator is a 3. And on the bottom, we have 3 yellows and 3 more yellows. So they just join up because they're all friends, and 3 plus 3 is 6. Okay, so again, if you notice up here, we had the same thing, 3 over 6. So that's the slope. Because remember, right here we went up 3 and to the right 6. So this is telling us to do the exact same thing because a 3 positive tells me to go up and a 6 positive tells me to go to the right. Okay? So again, we are going to simplify and we're going to get the same thing, 1 over 2. Okay, so now we know our slope for this line. We know that our slope is 1 over 2. And what that means for here, if we reenact the slope, remember, it tells us to go up 1 and over 2. We should still follow this same line. Okay, so let's say I pick, I don't know, I can even pick the same points or not. I can pick this one right here. Look, if I put a point here and I go up 1, so that's a +1 and it goes up. Oh, that looks messy. Okay, there we go. So that's a +1 and it does go up. Okay, so if I go up 1 and over 2, let's go over 2. 1, 2, right there. So that's my 2 points. So even though I followed the simplified version of the slope, the 1 over 2, I still am on the same line. It's still following the same rule. Okay? Even though the other one's 3 over 6 and this one's 1 over 2, it's still the same exact line. It's these 2 points right here in the middle. Okay? As opposed to this big separation between the up 3 and over 6. The same thing. Okay? Okay, so now let's continue. Now we need to find the y-intercept. So now we already know how to find the y-intercept because we've been practicing it all week. So let me scoot this a little bit over. And of course, we're going to use the y equals mx plus b, which is how to write a rule for a line. Okay? So every point, every single point, even the ones you can't see, are going to follow whatever rule we come up with. We already know our slope. Our slope is half, so I'm going to put it where it goes. So I'm going to put y equals, and I'm going to put the slope in a different color just so it stands out. And I already know it's a half. Okay? And then we are going to pick another point. Okay, so again, I can pick one of the original points, or I can even pick one of the new points that are on here in order to get my b. Okay, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to pick the easy one. I'm going to pick this one right here, where the 3 is the x and the 4 is the y. Okay, so I'm going to pick that point right there. So for y, I'm going to put my 4, because that's what that is, 4. And then I'll keep it all color-coded for you guys, equals. So the green numbers are going to be the new ones. My orange number is my slope that we already did. And over here, we're going to get 3 and then plus b. Okay, so remember at the beginning we had said that the door right here where it crosses the y-axis, it's going to be a decimal. And from the looks of it, it probably is. Because right there it's telling us to find out the half of 3. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply those two right there. And half of 3, well, I already know it's going to be 1.5. So it's 1.5. So I get 1.5 plus b equals, and then 4. Okay, so now we have baby buffalo. This is where we have to solve for b. We have to get rid of this 1.5. So I'm going to subtract by 1.5 and subtract 1.5 from here. And that's going to give me 2.5 for b. And remember, at the very beginning, when we first saw this graph, we knew that this was going to be a positive slope, which it was, because our slope was half. Okay, or half up there with the stairs where we counted the jumps. And we already knew that our y-intercept was going to be a positive number because it was upstairs. It's above the 0, so it's got to be a positive number. And we said it's in between 2 and 3, and it is. It's right in between 2 and 3. It's 2.5. Okay, so now we have our slope right there, and we have our b, so now we just need to put it in the equation. So I'm going to put y equals, and instead of m, I'm going to put half x, and instead of b, I'm going to put 2.5, and I'm putting plus because it's positive. So that right there is the equation for the line. Okay, so any point on this line, on this graph, is going to follow that rule. Okay, so now we can make a table if you wanted to. Okay, so let's just do one real quick. So I got x and y. And this is like all the steps of slope, in one problem, okay? So I'm going to put the ones that I have already. I'm going to put, for this one, I'm going to put -3, and 3, and 1, and 4. Okay, so all I did was I put these right here. So here's my x1 and y1, here's my x2 and y2. Okay, so I put those where they go. Okay, so again, I got them from up here and just put them in the table form. So now I could pick another number, let's say 0. Okay, so if I wanted to put an x for 0, that's my input, so I'm going to put it up there. I'm going to go y equals 1/2 parentheses 0 plus 2.5. So I already know anything times 0 is 0 plus 2.5, so that's going to give me y equals 2.5. So if my x is 0, my y is 2.5, and that gives me another coordinate, which is this one right here. Okay, so if I was to graph that point right there, that would be at 0 and 2.5. Because I would start here, I would not move side to side at all, so that's the 0 part, and then I would go up 2.5. So up 1, up 2, up half. So that would be this coordinate right there. Okay, and remember yesterday I told you that when you have a 0 on your x's, whatever y is going with it, that's going to be your door. That's going to be your b, which is it's our 2.5. Okay, so again, we can find whatever number. So let's find another one. So let's say I put 5 right there. So that would be y equals 1/2 parentheses 5 plus 2.5. So 1/2 of 5 is 2.5 plus 2.5 equals 5. Okay, so I should have a point at 5 and 5 because my input was a 5 and my output was a 5, so let's find it. Let's see. So again, I'm going to start at the origin right here, and I'm going to go to the right 5 times and then up 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it does hit right there on the line. Okay? So again, they're all going to follow this rule that we just solved. The y equals 1/2 x plus 2.5. Every single point on here, it doesn't matter if it's on the blue lines or not, it still has to follow the same rule. Okay? So those are two different ways of finding slope and the same old way of finding b. And the way we can prove it all is just input, output, just like we did in 6th grade.